This is not the next project I had planned to work on. I had all these great ideas for finally getting my teeth into some 1840s Victorian. But ever since I used this as the lining for my vest, I cannot get this out of my head. And I got to do it. I just got to follow my dreams and my heart. Oh, yeah, I got to do it. I got to do it. Okay, so I want to make a Regency dress out of this fabric. I have a pattern. Let's see over here. I used a combination of things. I do have a pattern from Black Snail that I kind of used, but then I did watch a video from Nicole Rudolph about how to create your own Regency pattern, and I think that's mostly it's a mix of those two is what this is. Um, the issue is this this poly taffeta is actually, now that I've experienced what silk taffeta feels like, it's really not that bad. It does catch flame very quickly. And you know what, surprisingly, silk taffeta, I had to like coax it to light up. Like it did not want to catch. That lights up. So I and with the way that the ash melted, it didn't ash, it beat it up. So that's clearly poly, but it's a nice poly. Um, it's light, it's lightweight. However, the body of it is very different from the material that I used for my other two Regency dresses. My previous Regency dresses were made of like a cotton gauze and an IKEA curtain, also made out of cotton. And so for the skirts, they are just rectangular panels that I gathered up. Looked very flowy and nice. Even though this is a rather lightweight taffeta, one, I don't think I want to gather it. Like, I think the gathering would be fine, but if I did gather, I still think I would want maybe gores in the sides because I feel like just straight panels is going to give me a bit of a poof at the waist, which wasn't really a thing for Regency dresses or something I'm interested in the look of for this outfit. And so I'm gonna have to play around with, and cutting into fabric always unnerves me. I'm like, oh, just that's why I often do just rectangular panels for my skirts. But I think this would look better with at least the front piece being more trapezoidal as opposed to straight down. I might also need a petticoat. I've been walking around like a skank, no petticoats under these Regency dresses. For one of my gauze one, it's green, so you can't really tell. At least by you can't see that I'm not wearing a petticoat. For my white IKEA curtain dress, you can clearly see I'm not wearing a petticoat under that. And so I might also shove in a petticoat. But when I started, well, when I had planned to start my early Victorian, my early Victorian wardrobe, the first part was going to be doing some undergarments because I'm in the middle of a corded petticoat. Uh, and I need to make some more petticoats for that. So I might just throw in a Regency petticoat while I'm wrangling all that other fabric anyway. So I don't know. This dress might be made without a petticoat for now, and I'll figure it out later once I make all that. So I have a pattern. It fits pretty well. Okay, and that's another thing. Okay, all of my other Regency dresses just a gathered front for the bodice. I don't think I want to do that. I again because one, I've already done that, and this so okay. Also, back closing is how I envision this dress, but I don't think I want to deal with a back close. Like even though it's silk and I'm gonna go for a more elevated look, I want to be able to easily put this on myself. I want to like wear this around. And if it was just for like if it were for an actual event, then yeah, I probably would do back closing because I probably would have someone to help me get into it. But when I'm just wearing it every day, if that's which is kind of how I want to wear this, I want it to be easy to get into. I do like to keep working on my flexibility, and I do have some dresses where I purposefully do it up, or when I create it, I make it such that I can easily get in and out of it if it's back closing. Like I test it as I'm patterning it out. For this, I think that's gonna be harder for some reason, and so I think I want to try an apron front. So my other dresses, they are front closing, but they have a drawstring that I kind of just pull it. So it's like a large panel that I gather up through the drawstring and tuck in. So and then the skirts come on top and front and hook. Very similar to how dresses are in Sense and Sensibility. If you look at stills of those images, it definitely looks like they have something. It's not quite apron front, but it's some sort of sorcery similar to that, and that's what I tried to recreate for those dresses. For this dress, I think I want to try an apron front. However, when I think of more evening gown, ball gown, regency dresses, I think of those as back closing. Like, not impossible. I do think that I have seen photos of an extant gown that's for evening wear that was apron front. But again, I don't know that I like apron front for something slightly more formal. So there's a lot of stuff I'm trying to figure out. I don't want gathers for the bodice. I'm thinking I want maybe pleats. I tried pleating up this fabric just to see what it would look like. Like going like pleats straight across looked pretty good. Like just sort of sit it here. No, I'll start from the side. Just sort of get those pleats in and just kind of pleat all the way across like so. And that could be fine. But I'm also thinking like bias pleats that sort of curve into each other. Maybe like if I get this on the bias, start making some pleats, and then have those pleats sort of curve. I wonder what this sounds like to you. Have those pleats curve this way and then another side coming over. I have a significant amount of fabric. And so I might be able to play around with a few different options, even if that might waste some fabric as I try to play with those options. Sleeves, I might. So I wasn't sure how much fabric I would have, especially if I'm trying to play around with how I want the bodice to look. But I looked through this and there's quite a bit. I think it's almost like 6 yards of fabric, which is I think more than I use for either of my other Regency dresses. So I definitely want a puff. I might want detachable long sleeves, and I might want one of those sheer sleeve, like over sleeves. Like if you've seen Bridgerton, it's in there, and there's like several gowns that I've seen images of that they're usually made out of net. I'd probably go with like organza, but I don't actually currently have a sheer fabric that I would like to try over that. But it's an idea. I don't know. I don't know. It seems cute. Um, but yeah. So I guess first step is remember. I have no. Usually I like to date these, so I know the last time I worked on this. It's been a while. The green dress was the last one that I made. And I don't remember when that was at all. Maybe a year and a half ago. I don't know. I don't know. So I'm probably going to find something I want to use for the lining. Make a mock up out of that with maybe extra thick seams just in case. Make sure that fits the way I want, and then cut out the back and sides of the fashion fabric to get an idea. That way I can have the rest of the bodice put together, and then I can start. I'll probably cut out the skirts first just to make sure all that fabric is out so that I know what I can play with. But honestly, it's like I think I have like 3 yards to play with even after the skirt. And so this takes up maybe a yard, a half yard probably. And so I think I'm going to have tons of space to play around with stuff for the bodice, as well as room for definitely short puff sleeves, but maybe even long detachable sleeves, especially if I don't have to think about the shoulder area, because a lot of the fabric for a long sleeve is in the sleeve head. Like that's where, because I'm like, oh, my arm's not that big. Arms are bigger than you think, but it's mainly all up in here where all that fabric comes from. And since I really only have to think about it from like here down, I don't think it's going to take as much fabric as sleeves usually would. So, yeah. Yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I've been using the American Duchess Guide to 18th Century Dressmaking for my pattern, or at least for the instructions. What I did was I took the back piece and the side piece and I turned in the seam allowance on the neck edge at the top and the side edge and the waist edge, leaving the what is this? The shoulder and the little bit of arm's eye unfolded over. I basted that down and then I layered the fashion fabric on top, folding under to meet, and then I'm going to do a running stitch at least along the neck edge, and then the bottom and the side, or the waist and the sides, you can just baste those after you fold it in, because we're going to stitch the sides and back together, and that's what's going to cement everything. But the top one, you kind of just do a small teeny tiny running stitch. For the side seams that I'm still working on, or at least the side piece, I'm going to fold under, and I think I finished one of them. I did. Look at that. So I folded under okay, so this is where the back piece would be. This is the side, and this is where it connects to the front. I folded in the side and the waist on the side piece. I will layer the side piece on top. And then I think also baste down, or like fold under, and either, no, I think I baste this side, because eventually I'm going to stitch, all this together with the back piece. And I'll go into that when we get to that step. So I'm going to finish basting the side and waist edges of the side piece, finish the neck edge with the running stitch on the back piece, and then baste the fashion fabric at the sides and waist on the back piece. Then I'll come back and talk about how I'm going to connect the side pieces to the back piece. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I got a bit carried away. Let's go over what's been done so far. So I did a very small running stitch along the back neckline right here. And then I basted the side seams and the waist seam of the back piece. Then for the side pieces, I basted, so I folded the seam allowances of the lining in. I think I showed you that. And then I laid the fashion fabric on top, basted the back side seam and the waist on both side pieces. And then with the back and the side piece having pretty much their seam allowances tucked under, I then put the two pieces together along the seam, and then I did an English stitch to seam these two pieces together for both sides. I can try to explain an English stitch to you, but there are better people to do that, so I'll just put some down below in the description. So I English stitched the side back pieces together. Then I cut out the front piece and the straps. Once I cut them out, I just what did I do? Oh, this is on the selvage, so I didn't finish the front edges on the front pieces. But I did turn under and hem the neckline. I didn't finish on this side just because I wasn't sure if I had enough seam allowance, but it's fine. So yeah, over here. Finished the neck edge, left the front edge how it was because it's the selvage, and also hemmed the waist edge. And then I just pinned the side and the front together. Tried it on. Well, okay. Then I cut out some straps. I need to get better about straps. I always think 3 inches will be enough, and it is not. I could have measured my back piece and remember that, but I always forget. You can look at a lot of my garments. I just forget because my ruler is 3 inches wide, so I just like, that looks good enough. But no, not when you're accounting for seam allowance. So there's a little bit of a gap between where the back strap part ends and how much strap is actually there. When we get to putting the sleeves on, I'll figure out how I want to address that. But for the neck edge of the straps, oh, and my iron spit on my linen, so I got to be careful about that when it comes to the silk. I just pinned the back straps to the back, folded in the neck edge of the straps, and then I tried it on. I don't know how this will work, not in my Regency corset, but let's see. Yeah. I put you there. That's cute. Ow. Ugh. Getting this off is going to suck. Okay, so once I had I just like gave it a 1/2 inch seam allowance. It doesn't really matter, just whatever your seam allowance is, just pin it. And I slurped or flopped the straps over my shoulder, looked to see what fit right. I kind of brought these two together and pinned. These darts right here are just pinned in. It was just straight fabric straight across. I put it on. I closed this with, whatever seam allowance I felt that I needed at the time. I think I used the selvage as a seam allowance. So it was probably like a 1/2 inch overlap that I gave this. And this was just heading straight down and just wherever I needed to pinch out a bit of fullness of the fabric to get it to sit right over my corseted bust. That's how much I took out. I pinned it. And each time I do this, I don't actually have that dart on my pattern. I just put it on, pinch it out, and that's what it is. And so I'm going to so after I did that, then I tried to get the straps how I wanted it, figure out like how far down I wanted this. And when I try this on with my stays, my shift is showing. I'll figure out what to do about that. I might make a shift with the lower neck, or it just might not give a fuck. Who knows? So I looked to see how low in the back I wanted it, then adjusted the straps and pinned them in place where I thought they would be a good fit. And these are just what, 3-inch wide rectangles that are maybe 14, 15 inches long. And I didn't need all that, but I just wanted to make sure I had enough. Um, Now that this is all pinned, like how I want my darts, probably should have added another pin to that, but whatever. How I want my darts, how I want my straps. I'm gonna take this off. Okay, and I'm going to fold under. So I was supposed to start with the front anyway, but I like just doing it from the back because it seems easier as a person who's by themselves. Um, I'm going to fold under, probably chop a lot of that off, fold under the bodice edge towards the bodice because this is the part that's going to be touching my skin or touching me, not my skin. Fold that other, hem that there. Then do something similar over here, just hem, use a hem stitch to stitch this to the lining. You could go all the way through, like when I do 18th century, I go all the way through and I just assume the strap is going to cover. And I still might do that, but I think you can also get away with just sewing it to the lining. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. So do that for the front and the back. And for the side seam, it's interesting what they ask for in the American Duchess book. They want you, so here on the outside, it's pinned. I like where that was sitting. So you're going to press where the pins are, almost like you're kind of folding it right at that side seam. Once it's folded over, you are going to whip stitch this folded section of side seam together, almost like you were doing like a butted whip stitch, if you're familiar with that. I can also link to something about that as well. But just whip stitch all the way through and then press this back open. And then for the fashion fabric, it's just going to go over that and then you can top stitch it down. At least I think that's what the instruction is. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I think that's what happens. I can look at, I have my dress hanging up over there. I'm pretty sure, yeah. And so once you have the fashion fabric on, it's going to fold over that and you can just top stitch it down. So that's what I'm going to do. Finish the straps for the front and backs. Sew these darts in on the front pieces. And then that's everything for like the main bodice done, except for the decorative part, which I'm still trying to figure out. I don't. I'm still trying to figure that out. But once this is done, we can start laying fabric on top of it and just seeing how it flows and fits. So let's get that done first so we can figure out what this bodice is actually going to look like. Okay. Let's see, where are we? So I was working on the front. I decided to just try and, let me get this out of the way. I tried pleating it, I tried gathering it, I tried just draping it, and it definitely seemed like the best way to go about it was to just sort of scrunch it up on my body. So at first I was trying to, well, it's a little hard because of everything I have in the way. I was just trying to place this over the sleeve and have it kind of follow the side seam, like I cut out a square in here, or it's more of a rectangle. Okay, yeah, selvage on the side seam, and I turned over the top edge perpendicular to the side seam, and I figured I would just lay this along the strap. This, folded over edge would be the neckline, and this selvage bit that I folded under would be the waist, and kind of just fold, pleat, gather the rest of the fullness to fit me. And that's much easier done on my body, apparently, because I tried to get it to work with just like pleating it and figuring it out, and I'm like, I'm just gonna slap it on, scrunch it up, and see what happens. And so after doing that, giving it a little scrunch, and I have this starting back here where the strap meets the back, and it was fine the way it was. However, some of my strap was showing, so I decided to just cover the strap, the linen strap, with a bit of silk. It doesn't have to go very far. Like, I know depending on some designs it can come like all the way down here, the fashion fabric, and this will still be linen. But my over bodice, or like the fashion fabric part of the bodice, can just cover all of that. Maybe like right here, because the way I want to dip it, almost make like a sweetheart-esque neckline. I might need to put something here, but we will deal with that later. So I have fashion fabric on the straps to help fill in any gaps that this construction would cover. This is pinned in at the side. And how I'm going to make these stay, because right now, after I had pinned it how I liked it, this is kind of the vibe it's giving off. I just basted these down lightly. Once I actually get it settled, after I completely attach the strap fabric, and I get this sewed in at top, the gathers or tucks or pleats or puckers, I can sew them down a bit more, but right now they are just basted together. But that is the general idea. So next steps, finish this top edge that I folded under. Make sure the straps are fully connected to the lining. Then, okay, so I also want this to be an apron front dress. I don't know how well that's going to work, but with the straps in place, I was thinking right where I want this to connect, and it might be a little hard. Like, this defeats the whole purpose of having an apron front dress. It might be hard for me to actually snap it all the way, or hook it, or whatever I'm going to do all the way back here, but I'm pretty flexible. I think I can make it work so that I can easily attach it so that the bodice sort of is attached to the front skirt panel, and I would lift it up in whatever, like these little corners, I would hook them in so that I can easily put this on front closing, because I think this design would be better with a back closing. I couldn't be bothered. I could not. So we're gonna work it out somehow. So again, finish attaching the straps, finish pleating these down and somehow securing those pleats or gathers in a way that makes sense, and then onto the skirt, I guess. Yeah, I'll be back. No, I won't. I'm going to stop this video right at this point. Apparently, I have a lot to talk about as I make this dress, and it is much longer of a video than I was expecting. So, you are getting the patterning out and the bodice in this first one. The next one is ready for you. Hold on tight. But yeah, no. We're done. Okay, bye.